Okay, so next we're going to be on step-by-step 8.4. The first thing we need to do is open up the Great.xlsx workbook and save it as Great Plains followed by your initials. After you've saved it, let's go ahead and highlight our data. We're going to create a chart, and then we're going to choose a pie chart this time. Highlight data from A5 through B8, and then let's go to Insert and let's choose pie for our chart this time. And let's choose a 3D pie. Sounds kind of delicious. Okay, so from here, let's choose our Design tab if it's not already chosen, and let's look under Pie or Chart Layouts and choose More. From there, let's choose Layout number 1. And it gives us an opportunity to type in the chart title, which we want to go ahead and select, and let's type in Annual Sales by Segment and hit Enter. Okay, let's resize this chart by clicking outside to deselect the chart itself, and then come back and click the chart so we're outside of our outside of adding in our details here. So let's resize it and move it over to D1 through H9. D1 through H9. So it basically matches the size of the data to the left. Okay. Go ahead and insert a header with your name and the current date, and save the worksheet one more time. Leave it open. Okay, save the worksheet, but you can close it out when you're done. Just leave Excel open. The next thing we're going to do is step-by-step 8.5. So let's open up Coronado. Save it as Coronado Foundries followed by your initials. And then in this particular set of data, we've got two columns that are not right next to each other. So if we try to highlight the whole thing, we're going to end up with a blank column in the middle. So we're going to choose this first set of data, B5 through B15, and then we're going to hold down the Control key on our keyboard and then select D5 through D15. So now we've got both sets of data selected without catching the middle empty space. And now we're going to insert a scattergram. So let's insert and choose Scatter, and let's pick the first one, which is Scatter with only markers, and it inserts a scattergram for us with these two pieces of data. Then the next thing that we want to do is add a title to this. So let's go to Layout and let's choose Chart Title, and let's choose above, or well, yeah, above chart. And then our chart title appears, and here we can type in June production and scrap report. Okay, next we need to put in some titles for our different axes, if that's the proper way to say that. So let's go to Layout under our Chart Tools, and then let's choose Axis Titles. Oh, I keep saying Axis, it's Axis Titles. When we click on that, we can choose Primary Horizontal Axis Title and Title below the axis. You guys know what I mean. Okay, so here we're going to type in units produced and enter. Now notice when I was typing, I was actually typing up here in the formula bar, and when I hit enter, then it filled it in down here. I can also highlight down here and type in, which I've done in the past. You guys have probably done that too. Okay, now let's go back to the Layout tab and let's choose Axis. Well, I need to deselect this, so let me deselect. Now select the graph. Now choose Layout, then choose Axis Titles, Primary Vertical Axis Title. I don't think I'm ever going to get that right. And then Rotated Title. Here we're going to type in units of scrap and hit enter. Okay. Okay, now let's click legend and we'll turn off our legend. So we'll select it like I just did and then say turn it off. And you'll notice when we do that that the legend over here on the right hand side that says series number 1 will disappear. You could also highlight it in the chart and delete it. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to right click in the chart area, and let's start by right clicking in the top right hand corner. Actually, it has to be selected first, so make sure you've selected it with your left click and then right click, and we get a shortcut menu. This shortcut menu has several options in it. As you can see, one of them is to move the chart. But now I want you to right click inside the middle of the data, and you'll notice that you have a different set of shortcuts. Reset to match the style, change chart type, select data. Okay, now right click on top of the header, and this also has different options as well. So as you right click in different areas of the chart, you'll notice that you get different shortcuts. So what we want to do is right click in the top right hand corner so that we can get the option to move the chart. And let's select that. And you'll recognize this option here. So let's choose new sheet and let's call it scatter chart. Okay, and let's say OK. And you'll notice that we now have a new sheet added at the bottom of our document. Sheet 1 is where our data was at, and now we have a scatter chart. Okay, so go ahead and save this and leave it open for the next step-by-step, which is 8.6. Okay, in this chart, you'll notice we're looking at a scattergram. All of our data falls within the range of a minimum of 4,000 units produced to a maximum of 12, maybe even 11 and a half. And the unit of scrap, the maximum we have is 250, and the lowest that we have is a little under 50. So let's make our chart reflect numbers that are closer to our 4,000 to 12,000 range and our 0 to 250 range. So we want to change these numbers so that they're a little bit smaller in range. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to go to Format under our Chart Tools. We're going to choose our horizontal value axis. There it is again. And then let's format the selection. And this is our minimum and our maximum numbers that we want to show up in our chart. The minimum that we want to see is 4,000 because this is where our data actually begins. So let's change the 0 to 4,000 and hit enter. So now you'll see we're only looking between 4,000 and 12,000. Now let's also shrink the numbers that we see on this side of the axis. So let's choose our vertical value axis and then choose Format Selection. And we want to see a minimum of 0 because 50 is kind of a little bit below 50, I think is where we started. So let's fix the maximum to be 250 and say close. So now basically what we've done is zoomed in a little bit on our chart so that we see all of our data, but it covers the whole size of the chart. Okay, go ahead and save this step by step and open up Red as the next document. Okay, after you've opened up Red, go ahead and save it as Red Cross followed by your initials. And then let's choose the bar chart in the bottom left corner. It's the very first sheet. And this illustrates the operating expenses for the year for the American Red Cross Association. But we need to add in a subtitle up here. Right now it says American Red Cross. We want it to also say underneath that operating expenses. So let's type in at the end operating expenses and then go back to the end of the S in Red Cross and hit enter. And then delete out that space. So now we have a title and we have a subtitle. Well, when we click inside the chart, you'll notice that the chart is automatically going to resize itself because the title has been increased. So now the chart and the title overlap each other too much. So let's click in the chart, and you'll notice that it went a little, it just shrunk in size. Okay, now the next thing we want to do is we want to increase the size of these dates to the left and increase the size of our numbers at the bottom. And to do that, we're just simply going to click once on a number, so we've selected the entire x-axis, and then we're going to go to home, and let's change from 10 points to 12 points. And you'll notice your chart also changes in size to fit it. Let's do the same thing for this axis at the bottom. Let's go to home and choose 12 point. And now we have a little bit easier to read dates. Okay, step by step 8.8 says to click on the Design tab. We're going to change the type of chart that we have. Okay, so let's choose Change Chart Type in the far left-hand side. And let's pick this line chart, or line with markers section in the middle. If you want, you can also choose line as the category on the left, and it'll take you to this row, and then you can choose the middle button. As you scroll around, you can see there's several different types of charts that you can use to represent whatever data you're wanting to graph. Say OK, and now we have a line chart instead. So at this point, we want to rename our bar chart at the bottom by right-clicking on it, choosing Rename, and instead of bar chart, let's type in line chart. Okay, next let's click on Sheet 1 at the bottom, and we're going to insert a small graph here to represent this data. It's not going to have an axis title to it. It's just going to be basically a line that shows us the high and the low points here. So the first thing we want to do is click on Insert, and then let's choose Line under Sparklines. And let's choose our data range, which is going to be B6 through B17. Hit Enter and say OK. So now we have a sparkline here that indicates how our data changed from year to year. There, like I said, there's no axis titles on this, but we see that it's too small. So let's highlight 6 blocks, 3 to the right, 2 to the bottom, and let's go to Home and do a Merge and Center and increase the size of that particular cell so we can see how it's changed. The next thing we want to do is let's mark the high and the low points of this. Let's go to Show under our Design tab, and let's click on High Point and Low Point. And you'll notice that little small boxes then appear at the low and the high point. They technically are different colors. It's just kind of hard to read. Okay, so now we know how to make a spark line. Let's change the spark line so that it's a bar graph instead of a line itself. Let's choose Column. And we can see how the data has then changed to indicate columns. There's no high point and low point markers, but they are still different colors. The high point and the low point are the light blue instead of the dark blue. Okay, or actually, I may not have done that with you yet. So on the Design tab, let's choose More Options under Style and choose Sparkline Style Dark 3, which I believe is let's try third style in the 5th row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so maybe we did do it, or didn't do it. Okay, so now you should have a red indicator for the high point and a red indicator for the low point, and then everything else should be black. And that's it. So hit save, and you can close this out.